get a taster and they take their gum out and they throw it on the floor. Somebody's got to scrape the gum off the floor at the end of the day. I only took that job because I was very interested in a girl who was working in the shoe store, and I figured I could, hang out with her afterwards. And I saw her waiting for me, and the woman who owned the store said, "You've got to scrape the gum off the floor." And I didn't want her to see me on my knees with a scraper. It was bad for my brand. I was in high school. And she said, no, you have to do it. And I said, you hired me as a scooper, not a scraper. She said, how about you're fired? And I didn't know what that meant. And it was the defining moment for me because I realized there's two kinds of people in the world. There's people that own the store, and there's people that scrape the shit off the floor. And you have to decide who you are. And I'm not saying being an employee is a bad thing, not at all. But for me, it hit me. It just hit me.
Kevin, there's a present for you. We give a present to all of our guests.
Really?
Underneath that black.
Can I open it?
You can open it.
I just take this off? Oh, look at that. You've heard the story. That is exactly how it looked, except it was black gum. And that was exactly the tile. It was just like that Mexican tile. That's really freaking me out.
So you were asked to scrape gum off a Mexican tile?
Yes, just like that. And in order to do that, you got to get down on your knees and do it. And I just couldn't do it. And then you know the rest of the story. I eventually could afford to bulldoze the whole mall if I went to. And we went back to meet her and thank her for her pushing me off the treadmill into that direction. And she was gone, and there was a bodega there instead.
You said there that you realize that there's kind of two people in life. There's the entrepreneurs, the person that owns the ice cream parlor, and there's the person that scrapes it off the floor.
Yeah.
That provoked a question in me, which is, do you think anybody can own the ice cream parlor? Do you think anybody can be an entrepreneur?
No. I've tried to teach it, and I mentor it all the time to the CEOs that I work with. There are some attributes of people that can do this. A certain element of risk tolerance, a certain element of focus, and then the other element, which I've really started to believe in of late, is karma, luck. You need to be lucky. It's like Napoleon was once asked, who are your favorite generals? And he said, my favorite generals are lucky generals, my lucky generals. And I'm starting to think that in life, particularly entrepreneurship, you look at the difference, the path of success and failure, and nobody's exposed to it more than I am in terms of how many investments I've made over the decades. I think if you want a percentage, I teach these cohorts at Harvard. I'm an executive fellow there. I'm very proud of that work. You get a class of 120 people in a room. 2/3 of them want to become consultants. That's why they're there. And lead a life of mediocrity and never make a decision of consequence in their lives. And after 24 months, they are tainted with that disease forever. They'll always be good consultants, but they will never achieve greatness in any way. In life, only 1/3 of people can become successful entrepreneurs. That's it. And the rest can be very successful employees, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can have a fantastic life. You won't be shackled to the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, the challenge of it, how hard it is, but you'll never be free. And that's the debate. That's it right there. Do you want personal freedom? It's the only path. That's it.
It's the only path.
It is the only path. I mean, you can't, I've always said it's not about the pursuit of money. It's not about the pursuit of greed. You will fail if you do that. It's the undying love of freedom.
So that 1/3 of people that you say will be successful, they'll pursue their dreams, they'll build a business, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible for us in this conversation to increase the probability of their success? You said you don't think you can make someone an entrepreneur, but is there things you can do to increase their probability of success?
Yes, there are a couple of things that you must achieve to be successful. And let me explain what they would be. And this is not some academic study. This is real data from real situations of real CEOs I've worked with and learned from, because I used to work for guys like Steve Jobs and others in my career. Let me give you one that I think is very important. We'll start with this one. I used to work for Steve Jobs in the early 90s, making all of his educational software. I mean, it was just, there they are. My goodness, you guys do good research. Those are the kind of things that we did for him. Yeah, all of that. It's hard to find. Those are CD-ROMs. But, you know, in developing that software, we used to go quarterly. Heidi Rosen was there in the room. She's still a very famous venture capitalist. And I would say, Steve, you know, we got to do some market research on Oregon Trail. I mean, it's a huge title. It's in 110,000 school buildings. We got to do an update. It's going to cost you 12, 15 million bucks. We want to find out what the students want. We want to find out what the teachers want. We want to find out what the parents want. Steve would say, by the way, not a nice guy. Not a nice guy. He would say to a room full of people, Kevin, I don't give a shit what the students want or the parents think or anybody thinks. It's what I want. They don't know what they want till I tell them what they want. And I said, Steve, you sound like such an asshole. You have no idea what that sounds like. He says, no, that's how it is, Kevin. Now, are you making money with me? Am I your fastest growing OEM? Have we not been wildly successful and continue to be? I said, yes, Steve, that's true. He said, then fucking shut up and do what I say.
That's how he would talk to you.
100%. And here's what I learned. Look how wildly successful he was. But here's why. There's a concept that he understood that very few people focused on back then in the early 90s of signal-to-noise ratio. What was so brilliant about Jobs that I tell every CEO now, and I don't care if you're an S&P 500 CEO or you're just starting a business, his vision of signal was the top 3 to 5 things you have to get done in the next 18 hours. Not your vision for the business next week or next month or next year, just the next 18 hours you're awake. You're going to get those 3 things or those 5 things done that you have deemed critical for your mission. They must get done today. Anything that stops you from doing that is the noise. So this signal-to-noise ratio to be successful for Steve Jobs was 80-20. 80 signal, 20 noise. And I knew that to be true with him because he would email me at 2:30 in the morning, expect me to get back to him, because back then we didn't have texts, it was all email. He was right. He was right. And the only other person that I've seen that has a higher ratio than that is Elon Musk. He has no noise. He does not deal with noise. He is 100% signal, 24 seconds, every cycle. I mean, the guy is just 60 seconds of every minute, 60 minutes of every hour. The 18 hours he's awake, it's all signal. And look what he's achieved. Now, that's very awkward for him socially because noise is dealing with your family sometimes, or noise is saying hi to a friend, or noise is listening to some doom scrolling on, some social media app that just takes your mind, or maybe playing your guitar. But very few people on earth, and if you go back in history, you're going to find out that the geniuses of their time were close to 100% signal.
And so I can really sort of summarize this for my audience. Signal is the most urgent thing you should be focused on right now, and noise is basically everything else.
No, the goals you set for that you were awake. If you're going to be awake 18 hours,
yeah,
and you've determined that there's 3 things you have to get done, you're going to get those done. No matter what it takes, you're going to get those done. And you're not going to let anything distract you from the 3 to 5 things. If you're a CEO and you achieve that, and you can get those done with 80% of your time based on that, you're extraordinarily successful. You are absolutely, and you're Steve Jobs, or you're an Elon Musk, or you're somebody. If you even talk to Bezos, I don't know him personally, but I've heard in many interviews, like I knew, I've met Elon just a few times. I spent a lot of time with Jobs, but they say the same thing. Bezos will not make a decision after 1 o'clock in the afternoon because he felt that the noise was too high. The signal for him was in the morning hours. This is a crucial aspect of success that I now understand to be the ability of it defines an entrepreneur. A man or woman that understands the signal-noise ratio, that focuses on that, they'll be successful. The ones that can't, that get down to a 50-50 signal noise, they'll fail. It's that simple. And it's a very simple concept. You made one of your things today, this interview. You're going to get it done. All these people around and everything else, this is one of the 3 to 5 things you're going to get done. I have 5 things today. I'm going to get them done. I'll do the same thing tomorrow. and the day after that. And you have to decide how much signal you need to get those 3 to 5 things done. And for jobs, it was 80%.
What's the opposite of that? Sometimes looking at the opposite helps us to understand something. So the opposite of having,
I hire managers and CEOs that have a balance in life between the discipline, the binary aspect of business, which is I make money, I lose money, and the chaos of the arts or some other pursuit, dance, painting, photography, collecting crystals, whatever it is that they have that balance. You need the yin and yang in your mind to make correct decisions. It doesn't mean it takes you off the signal. The signal is you got to get stuff done. But how do you live your life? And so I spend a fair amount of my time practicing my guitar or working with my photography or my watch. Tonight, very late tonight, I will meet a master watchmaker, and we will deal with the design of a new piece unique he's going to make for me. And I'm going to love that moment. That's going to be something completely different to what I did all day long. And we'll start our journey together over the next 2 years to make this piece unique. And that's something that just takes me away from all the shit I'm going to be dealing with today. And I also tell successful entrepreneurs, in the same day, you will get this happened to me today. It happens every day. You're going to get a call from some aspect of your, what you do, you call it your empire, whatever you want, where this company's going bankrupt. It's just going to go bankrupt. And you're going to lose, I don't know, $10 million on that deal. And that's a piece of information you're dealing with. Half an hour later, this actually happened to me today. One of my companies going public. It's a 450x for me. The stock will get unlocked sometime in the fall. But how do you fit that together? Utter catastrophe, destruction, woe, loss, utter euphoria. Half an hour later. That's what my life is like.
That's entrepreneurship, obviously on a different scale for most founders.
Well, the founders deal with the same thing. They get disastrous news. They lose an account like a Costco or something if it's consumer goods or service, and they get something else. The ebb and flow is the management of expectations, and your ability emotionally to navigate those ups and downs is part of what entrepreneurship is. But it goes back to the signal. It can't take you off the signal. This is what Steve taught me. Yes, it's great news. Yes, it's bad news, but focus on the signal, O'Leary. Focus on the signal. That's it.
Where does this analogy come from of signal and noise?
It was his genius of making it so simple. What are the 3 things you got to get done today? What are they? What are they?
How do you know what they are?
They will make themselves apparent. They will definitely make themselves apparent. They will make themselves apparent, and you will realize, I have to deal with that. You may have them set up from the day before. I actually still use sticky notes on my mirror. Got to get these 3 things done, or 5 things, whatever it is, but then something else will hit. That's the skill of understanding, is that noise hitting me, or is that signal? There is the essence of the great entrepreneur, the great manager, the great leader. Is that signal or is that noise? What is it? That's what you're looking for. You're hiring somebody that can actually distinguish signal and noise, because it could be noise. It could be irrelevant. You have to determine. Only you makes that decision. That's the key right there. This is what I teach entrepreneurs and engineers, and this is the most important thing.
It's that judgment of prioritization, but then the sort of force of execution to get it done.
Can you interpret signal and noise? And can you keep the noise away from the things you got to get done? That's one. The other, which is something that I've learned over the last 5 years, and this you might find this interesting, but most of my, particularly the nascent startups, and you're involved in the same format I am. You're at Dragon's Den in England. I'm Shark Tank in the U.S. You put up $500,000 or $1 million into somebody's business. 8 out of 10 is going to fail, maybe 6 out of 10, depend. You just don't know. And I love it when people tell me, oh, I know when I make an investment, it's going to work. They are so full of shit. I'm talking about startups. They have no idea what's going to work. And you won't know for 5 to 7 years, which is why you need diversification in the portfolio. But I would go as far to say now, when I meet venture capital firms and young analysts that work there, and they think they're so damn smart. They've never operated a business. They know nothing. They have no idea what they're doing. They're going to hope that one or two of their portfolio is going to work out in 7 years and pay for all the other mistakes. But the serendipitous nature of success in entrepreneurship is brutal. It is.
So does that mean, though, that it's, I guess, I was going to say, does that not mean that it's highly luck? If investing's highly luck, entrepreneurship must be...
Well, I said karma, I call it karma, but you need executional skills. But here's another skill that I think we should talk about. When you look at least my experience over decades of making these nascent, these early stage investments, these A-round investments, remarkably, and I've done them in all 11 sectors of the economy, the majority of the successes 5 to 7 years later are companies run by women. Why is that? Why is that? And so they don't know each other. They're in different sectors. They never meet each other. Why is that? And I have come to the conclusion, two things. They set goals that they can achieve so that in the early stage of their businesses, they put growth rate targets like 15, 16% versus men at 30% very often. Men hit their targets 65% of the time, at least my portfolio, and women 90+% of the time. And that keeps the team very sticky. They want to be part of so they don't have a lot of attrition when they're small. They don't lose the head of finance and marketing. And that works. But they have another attribute, and this was pointed out to me by one of my female CEOs a few years ago to me. She said, Kevin, you talk too much. You talk too much. You talk 2/3, you listen 1/3. Why don't you try reversing the ratio?
She said that to you?
Yeah. I'm very thankful, actually, because I tried it. And she's right. If you don't talk and you listen, you become far more effective as a manager or an investor, in my case, by getting information that you weren't going to get by talking. And so if you go into a room, I just did this a few minutes ago before I came here. I'm involved in a litigation, and we decided to attempt settlement talks, which is why I was a few minutes late. And, we knew we were going in there to settle. And it's long protruded, it's a long litigation. And I remembered her as we sat at the table like this. There were other people in the room, but the two, we were across from each other. I just looked at him. I didn't say anything. For a long time. And it gets uncomfortable and no one else is talking. Just looking. And maybe after 90 seconds, he blurted out something he shouldn't have said. And I knew exactly what the price was right there. That was the end of it.
You learn that as a podcaster. You learn that there's actually something going on in the silence.
There is something going on in silence, and it's the number that he was going to settle at.
He showed his hand.
So we saved ourselves 2 hours, It's an attribute that many people can't do because they can't stand the social uncomfort of it. I have no problem with it. I could sit here and look at you for 10 minutes. It wouldn't matter to me. And I've actually found it to be a very useful piece of information. It's not just a negotiating, but to listen to employees, listen to investors, listen to financiers, listen to alternative ideas to yours, and become more powerful from it.
You're in the very business of people selling to you and pitching to you. We both sit on a similar show where people come in and pitch to us. You're seeing at times 10 to 12 pitches a day. So you've developed this muscle over the last couple of decades now, almost this instinctive spidey sense of when an entrepreneur will be successful, at least in the context of securing investment. What have you come to learn about the attributes of the ones that are successful? Is there anything one can take from that?
In the moment when that entrepreneur comes out onto the carpet, in the context of Shark Tank or Dragon's Den even, they need the setup shot of the product with the entrepreneur, and they have, in our case, a Steadicam or a jib that comes down and shoots it. So the stage director, Eric is his name, I've worked with him for years, says to the entrepreneurs I've never met, usually it's a team or it's a family or it's whatever, 3 or 4, 2 people, whatever, Hold, hold, hold. Don't speak. Hold, hold. Don't mind the camera coming into your face. Hold, hold. Maybe for 2 minutes. And I'm right there in front of them. I'm 12 feet from them, and I just look at them. Not smiling, not blinking, not frowning, just looking at them. And before they say a single word, I know if they're winners or losers. Just like that. And why is that? Why is that? And I'm right probably 99% of the time. Maybe I get it wrong, 1 out of 100. I doubt it, though. You walk in a room, even though you've practiced, you're in the context of Shark Tank, 20 plus cameras, $1 billion plus in the 5 chairs there. You've been practicing for months your pitch, but it wasn't the real deal. Here you are. Cameras are rolling, tape is running. You know you've only got so many minutes. This is your moment. And you're on national television, 100 plus million people will see you in syndication. It's all in your mind. It's all in your mind. It's going through your head. Can you project who you are with your eyes and the way you're standing? Can you project your confidence? Or are you looking at the ground? Or are you looking away from me because you can't stand me looking at you directly without saying anything to you? Or do you push back? Or do you say, I'm going to stake my aura. I'm going to stake my ground here. I'm going to show you I'm ready. See what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
And I can feel it. I can see that they're ready to do battle. They're ready to answer. They're ready to present. They're ready, or they're not. And I've taken that out of the Shark Tank. I see that every day in life. I see it. So you have to learn how to project yourself in front of your peers or who you want to lead or teach, or if you're a general or a preacher. That is maybe an innate something you're born with, or maybe you can learn that. I don't know. I don't care. But if you don't have it, you're going to fail. And that's before a word is spoken. Before the first word is spoken. And so then what has to happen? Then Eric says, go, you're on. And everybody's just sitting there looking at you. Can you articulate your idea in 90 seconds or less? Can you, whatever props you have or whatever you're going to say, can I get the big idea right away? The ones that had that aura generally get there. 30 seconds later, I get it. I get what they're here for. I understand their product. Okay, that's good. Unfortunately, great ideas are a dime a dozen. I mean, there's millions of them. The next phase begins. This is after 90 seconds. Can you explain why you're the right person to execute on this idea and create a business from it? Because you know something about this space. You worked for a competitor. You've tried 3 times before and failed. You figured out what you did wrong. What is it about you or your team that can take this idea and make it happen? Now, when you get those 2 things together, you can feel the aura of the room. The isotope is sizzling because you've de-risked a great idea. You got an operator in, but then the third thing, this is the killer. It's the killer. I've seen it so many times in real life, and Shark Tank's real life it is, but you got to know your numbers. How big is the market? How fast is it growing? What's the gross margin? I mean, I've said this 1,000,000 times to people. I teach this every day. How many competitors are there? When are you going to break even? What month? If you get the first 2 right and you don't know your numbers, you deserve to burn in hell, and I'll put you there myself. I mean, you wasted an opportunity for an entrepreneur that did know their numbers, that could have been in that spot that I could have invested in. You don't know your numbers. I'd take you up behind the barn and shoot you. You should have brought somebody that understands the language of business, because those 3 together are the definition of leadership right there.
I've never heard someone talk about aura in entrepreneurship quite like that. And I was just trying to, for the people listening that are either trying to figure out if they have an aura or to grow that aura, what does it look and feel like? Is it physically? Is it shoulders back? Is it, you said it's eye contact, or is it indescribable? And do you think you could take someone who doesn't have that aura in business and teach them it? Does business give you that aura?
I think you can teach it. I certainly try and teach it to my children. I try and teach it to my students. And the best way to do it is to look at yourself in the mirror sometime. Just what do you look like to yourself? If you're going to go make a presentation to take down $1 million line of credit or something, you want to dress the part, obviously. But you're going to walk in a room with, a loan officer and maybe an assistant, maybe one other, depending on the size of the deal. And they'll have never met you, probably, and you're going to have to project yourself in those seconds as you're walking up to shake their hands. What does that take? It takes an aura of confidence, and it's in the eyes, it's in the way you're standing, it's in the way you're dressed. It's not a joke to be dressed for success. But it's something about presenting yourself and keeping your eyes focused on who's talking to you so that they know that you're absorbing the information, that you respect the information, that you're about to get into a narrative with them of respect, even though there may be disagreements. All of this is happening in the first 60 seconds, and it's setting up for the rest of your life with that person. It could be who you're going to marry. It could be who you're going to work with. It could be your partner in business. It could be your banker. It could be anybody. It could be a soldier that's going to give up their life for you. It's sort of, who are you? That's it.
Just closing off on the point you made about women being your most successful investments and the companies that have given you the greatest returns tend to be led by women. Does that mean that you focus on hiring women into executive roles?
Yeah, I'm practically all women, particularly Asian women. I am this whole thing about DEI and all this stuff. I've always had diversity because I only hire on merit. I don't care what sex you are or what you call yourself or where you came from or the color of your skin or what planet you were born on. I couldn't give a shit. Can you execute? And the way I hire people, and that's why I have such a diverse staff in my operating company, I don't hire you. I say, look, you sound good. And you look great on paper, but that doesn't mean anything if you can't work within the team. So I know you want a job and you want benefits and all that stuff, but I'm not going to do that. If you want to be part of my universe, you're going to work for 4 to 6 months as a contractor at a much higher salary because you're not going to get any stock options. You're not going to get any benefits. But I just want to see what it's like for you to work with all of the people that we deal with every day, all the lawyers, all the bankers, all of the, the CEOs that we have investments in, and your coworkers, because I don't do 9 to 5 anymore. I do project-based work. I don't care where you live. We have people working in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, England, everywhere. And we meet, we try and find an hour every week where we can see each other, but we're just constantly communicating using modern day tools today. But, can you actually be given a mandate and execute on it? That's it. I don't care when you do it. If you have to get the financials out, let's say you're running in finance, you got to get them out the 15th for taxes. I don't care when you do it, but if you miss the 15th, I care. So I need to find out if those people can fit into that kind of an environment. Some of them make it, some of them don't. Sometimes we know right away after 90 days, okay, let's hire them, bring them in the team, and let's give them the whole package. And sometimes after a month, we say, no, it's not going to work. Here's that's it. I think more companies should do that, actually. It's more like the Swiss apprentice system. They bring you into a lot, my stepfather's Swiss. I've been going to Switzerland for 50 years. So if you're a giant company like a Pfizer or Nestle, you pull them out of high school at 14. You give them a job in the afternoon. They become an apprentice. They want to learn. They want to work. They want to understand what it's like. And then you find the winners while they're still in high school. Then you give them summer jobs, and then you bring them into the company. That's where I got the idea from. The Swiss are genius that way.
Because you're sort of mitigating the risk, I guess. You're taking less of a risk on these.
No, but you're also finding out if their DNA is going to fit with your... I want my team to make a ton of money. I want them to be successful. I want every person to be proud to work with the other and just, we're almost invincible. We're so damn good at what we do. You have the same thing here. You don't have people that don't work for you well. You get rid of them. You whack them. I'm more just formal about it. Boom, you're gone.
with the investments that you've made, how many offers have you done on Shark Tank now? Probably like 800.
We don't even count it anymore. We look at the portfolio rolling over a 5 to 7 year period.
A lot.
Yeah, I like a lot. And the thing is, what I've learned is you get an exit like Base Pause from 5 years ago or something. Anna Skaya, a remarkable woman.
That was the cat DNA.
Cat DNA thing. I mean, nobody saw that coming. I thought the thing was a joke. I was so wrong. I mean, that's the whole point. And she had the highest IRR in I think in the whole format's history. Nobody's made. She was around for 36 months and taken out at such an extreme number in all cash that there was an NDA signed between Sony and the pharmaceutical company. I can't even tell you what it was. It was extraordinary. It was extraordinary.
Was it 9 figures?
Believe me, it's a tough NDA because, and I understand why they did it. They didn't buy it for the cat DNA testing. They bought it for the data.
Mm-hmm.
With AI wasn't emerging then. It existed, but it wasn't. With the data they have now, they can develop products for animals that are extraordinary in terms of feeds and medicines.
Yeah.
And nobody had that much data on the 110 million cats in America because she got it all during the pandemic. Thousands and thousands and thousands of it was never about, it was a data company. It's like my son telling me when he got his internship at Tesla, hey, Dad, it's not a car company. It's a data company.
Mm-hmm.
Buy the stock. I said, I'm never buying the stock. It's a joke. It's so expensive. He said, you're an idiot. It's not a car company. So I bought the stock. And he was right. It became my most successful investment. I had to keep selling it down to 5%. My cost base is 0 on Tesla now.
Fuck.
Yeah, but before it split. And he worked there for 5 years.
One of the personas that I have that watches this show a lot are young people, not always young, but that are on the sofa thinking about being an entrepreneur. And they talk about it a lot. You know, they come up to me in the street.
2/3 will never do it.
2/3 will never do it.
You might as well do it when you have less burdensome risk, like a mortgage and a family. You might as well do it in your 20s. You're going to fail the first time, maybe the second, maybe the third. You only need one success. I mean, I had plenty of failures, and I still have failures. I mean, it's just, that one I talked about this morning. I said to the largest shareholders as I was in the car and your assistant was, looking at me in the limo. I was telling the other 2 shareholders, listen, guys, it's a binary decision. As soon as I get out of this interview, we're going to make a decision. This company's going bankrupt.
Oh, on the bankrupt company.
Yeah. And so if we want to save it, everybody's going to have to pony up X million. And we're going to own the whole thing. We're just going to own it all. We're just going to do a cram down round at a fraction of a cent. We're going to own the whole thing. You want to do that, or you want to let it go bankrupt? You guys choose. I'm 1/3 of it, so it's going to have to be, 2 against 1. And I'll do whatever they want because that's how I am. But it's, you want to get yourself in a position in life, and I think most CEOs understand this. You are going to have bad outcomes. There are going to be bad outcomes. But never put yourself in a situation where one bad outcome defines who you are. I mean, for those shareholders, they're going to be unhappy. But then I got the call on the IPO. Those shareholders will be very happy. They're going to make 400x. Mm-hmm. So and that was one of my deals. And so it's sort of like learn to live with the idea that you are going to fail. You're going to lose money by taking risk. Will it change relationships permanently? Maybe. But if you're respected and you're honest and you're transparent, probably not. I think there's a lot of people who don't like me for my bluntness. I don't care. I think a lot of people respect me for my bluntness. They may not like me. And, it's sort of, it doesn't matter because the only people that really matter to me are probably my 20th closest friends and my family.
Do you think if you hadn't worked with or known Steve Jobs, you would be a different person?
100%. Steve changed my life. There's no question. I didn't like him, but I feel so bad that he didn't have to die that way. He just wouldn't go with the modern medicine at the time. It's my view. The guy was a friggin' genius. He was so smart in terms of keeping on track to getting stuff done. And look what he achieved. But he was difficult, because he wasn't always right, but he was right so much that the mistakes just didn't matter. And I thought, the people that spend enough time with him know what I'm talking about. It occurred to me, because I know Wozniak too, not as well as Jobs, but they really needed each other. They really needed each other. Because Woz understood, he understood what let me draw an analogy here for you. I think it's a good one. Take the situation going on right now with NVIDIA, AMD, to a certain extent Intel, maybe Broadcom, where policymakers in Washington have decided that we can't sell those chips to countries like China or Russia or whatever the list is of adversaries. That's bad policy. And here's why. What I learned from Jobs was the computer, the chip, is the queen bee. It's the queen bee. But it has no value without the honeybees, which are the programmers around it that form a community that spend all of their energy writing code that works with the queen bee, which is the chip, that pushes out its influence, because every coder that becomes familiar with that firmware, that Wozniak computer, writes to that platform, is part of the honeybees. Jobs understood that. He said, I've got to get every honeybee writing for the Mac, writing for the OS of Apple. It's the same with the NVIDIA chip. We need to sell it to everybody, even adversaries, because within that country of Russia or China is some genius kid, you don't know who he is or she is, that's going to write the next piece of firmware or advance AI from the queen bee, the chip, the American queen bee. The minute you shut down a market and your adversary sends their queen bee in, which is Huawei, we can't let that happen, because I don't think the lawmakers understand what Jobs understood. You create the hive with the queen in the middle. That's the chip. You convince every bee around to make the honey, which is the software, and that is the AI in this case. You make it off that chip. And when you advance the chip again, everybody knows how to take that set and stay within the American chip that you're advancing. Maybe you keep them one generation behind, maybe that's the policy, but you don't ever let an adversary put their queen bee in the middle of the hive. You see what I'm saying?
Of course.
And that is what Jobs did. That was the war between Gates and Jobs on the OS, on the operating system.
Yeah, I was thinking about the App Store and
it's the same thing.
ecosystem.
It's exactly the same thing. And so when I see this policy now, I go out of my mind. I mean, the first thing I do is get on a plane and go to Washington, because AI is so important for all of the investments I've made. I do not want to be putting Chinese honey into my companies at all. It's that simple.
So for that person that's stewing over their ideas now, if they had just a couple of minutes with you and they asked you the question, Kevin, I'm about to start this business. I'm about to go on this journey of trying to go from zero to something in my life. Is there anything else that I need to know as I set up upon this sort of next 10 years of my life? I'm 21 years old. Because I think every entrepreneur has like their principles. You talked about one, which is the signal versus noise thing. Are there any other foundational principles that you think are conducive with success that you might have learned?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm telling 21-year-olds now is, look, go work for 24 months in a sector you love, that you're passionate about, even if they don't pay you. Go in there and be an apprentice. If you're that passionate, you're going to be able to convince some manager to go work for free in there. They're going to recognize your passion and they're going to bring you in. Do that first. Most young entrepreneurs say, nah, I don't want to work for anybody. I said, yeah, you do actually. You do want to work for somebody. You want to just understand how all the cogs move. Just 24 months. And after that, launch. The first one will probably fail. You're going to start with your parents giving you $10,000 or whatever it is, friends and family. But you will have the baseline knowledge of your industry. You will know who the participants are. You will understand how it works. And you'll have a much higher probability of success. But the key is to launch sort of in your mid to early 20s, because you need to burn a few years failing, and that matters.
On the point of how to lead people, when people hear about Jobs' approach, they sometimes assume that you also have to be an arsehole. And this is the conflicting thing, because the world has changed since Jobs was in a leadership position. Things have gone a little bit more soft, shall one say. Have you seen all types of leadership win out in that regard? The direct, signal-focused, kind of brash approach, but also the kind approach?
I don't think kind works. I think respect works. The same number of assholes are out there being successful now as they were back in the 90s. It doesn't matter whether you're an asshole or whether people like you or not. I mean, people get so stuck on this stuff. It's the team you're building are not your friends. They are the team you're building to execute on a mandate. Your customers come first. They're more important. And then, of course, the employees, and how are they respected or not. There are people that work for me I don't like. It doesn't matter. I respect them. I respect their ability to execute. And that, above all, is the most important thing. If you start getting into interpersonal relationships, you will fail, because you may have to fire that person one day. People that hire family take huge risk. Nepotism's a horrible disease. It's some of the greatest private companies on earth never let the kids run them. They just put them on the board and they hire professional management. That's how they keep wealth multi-generational. I think about Tetra Pak, for example. People may not know that name, but it's a massive successful company. IKEA. I mean, it's sort of, you have to learn those lessons. It's about respect in both directions. It's not about likability or softness or some social metric. It really isn't. And trying to redefine leadership that way because it's on trend, it's not going to work.
I started my first business at 12 years old, and then I started more businesses at 40.